If you design websites and you want to be taken seriously by your clients and peers, you have to understand some basic web design terms and concepts. And in this video, which is actually a crash course, I'm going to show you the most important concept that you have to understand in web design so that you can communicate and think like a good web designer. Let's roll right into it. The first thing I want to talk about is the nav, which is short for navigation. You probably know it's always or most times at the top of the website to show you the most important pages on the website. It's also a lot of times shows you what page you are on. Right now, we're in the Apple homepage and we're not seeing anything selected or highlighted because we're on the homepage. Sometimes navigations like here are going to be at the bottom because people try to be creative, but it's very, very common that they're at the top. It's also very, very common that clicking on the logo will take you back to the homepage if you're inside of an inner page. Now, while we're in the nav, let's talk about some kind of like sub-terms for the navigation. Like you can see here, drop-down menus usually have this arrow, and it means that if you hover on top of them, there's multiple selections that can be found underneath them. But in cases like the Apple website, where actually when you hover, you have a whole new menu that is opening up beneath it because they have so many pages and such a complex website. This we call the mega nav. So now you know that we have a regular navigation, we have drop-down menu, and you have mega nav when we have very complex website. One last term around the navigation that you probably know about or seen is the hamburger menu for navigation. You can see here in the Apple website, they have kind of like two lines that when you click on them, they open up this navigation. You probably know this super common in mobile design, and this is called hamburger. Usually it's like three lines. That's why it's called hamburger, like, you know, the buns and the hamburger in beneath. Some people will use this on desktop designs as well. It's usually because on mobile, we don't have space to have all of these different pages shown, and that's why we stack them inside of an inner menu. All right, this is the menu. The next thing I want to talk about is heading. Heading, just like when you read a book, right? You have a heading and then you have types of headings. And, you know, in a book, you have the name of the book, and then maybe you have chapter 1, and then you have the actual text inside. In web design, it works quite the same way. You can see that we have big heading and then smaller headings, and then we have text, which is a lot smaller, obviously, in some places. And the reason that this is important is because when Google reads your website, they want to understand what is the topic here, what are we talking about, what is this section or this text talks about, and that's why it's very important to not only make sure that headings are bigger because we look at where the text is bigger first, our attention goes there, but also if I'm going to right-click here and do inspect, you can see that in the code here, in the HTML code, this starts with H2, which stands for heading number 2. So the way HTML, the code language for web design, works is that we have H1, which is the biggest kind of like heading, most important heading on the page. Usually we have one. You can think about this as kind of like the book title, like what is this page about? And then we have H2, which you can call it kind of like maybe a chapter name or something like this. And below these, we have heading number 3 and heading number 4 and so forth. So we have heading 1 through 6. Usually the most common are 1, 2, 3. And this is very, very important. A lot of, again, important for SEO, important for structuring it correctly, also for people with disabilities who are maybe using website readers and are not actually looking at them. This helps them skim. So this is very, very important to building and structuring correctly, but also designing with headings in mind. The next thing I want to talk about, which is very, very common in web design, is sections. Now, in Apple's website, they actually make it very, very easy for us to see because they have this white line between the sections. So what are sections? Sections are these, wide areas that usually have one topic between them. So everything here between the white line is the first section, and then we have the second section, and then we have the third section, and then we have another section and another section. And you can see this working the same on every website. So here we have another section, and then we have the second section, and then we have the third section, and so forth. So this is basically the way websites are built. They're built with rows, these kinds of rows that are stacked one on top of the other, and we're scrolling through them. Each one of these sections usually is telling a different part of the story. So we're moving from, chapter 1 to chapter 2 to chapter 3, and we're telling a story. So let's talk about some of these very important and common sections that we have on any website. The first one I want to talk about is the hero section. So the section always at the top of the website is called the hero section because it's the hero, it's telling the story. And this is a lot of times where a lot of the creative efforts are going through. You can see it here. This is the hero section here. You can see it in the Apple website. This is the always changing to promote something new here. The goal of the hero section is usually to very, very quickly tell people where you are, whose website is, like, what is this website doing and why should you even stay on this website, right? They very quickly show you with an image, this place is called Format, this, company, Smart Bespoke Interiors, very, very fast communicate what's going on here, right? So Apple, they don't need to explain maybe what they're doing at this point, but they're promoting something scary fast. This is the thing that they want to show here in the hero section. Now, a lot of times it would be very, very common that web designers are going to set the hero section to take up the whole screen. And you can see this right here where you can see that the navigation is aligned to the bottom of the screen. If I change my screen size, you can see that the hero section is kind of like changing to always take up my whole screen. And only if I scroll, I get to the second section. Now, why is this important? This is, again, a design tool to control the story because here's an example. Apple, for example, are not doing it in this website. They're actually allowing me to see the next section, iPhone 15, while I'm seeing the first section. Now, even though Apple are doing it, sometimes a lot of designers would try to avoid this because why confuse people when you're trying to tell them the first story of what's going on in the hero section? You want people to focus on that. When they start seeing and reading what's in the next chapter, it can be confusing. So it would be very common, and you can see it here and in other websites, that the hero section is going to take up the whole screen. All right, so this is the hero section. The next section that I want to talk about is the last section that is very, very common on every website, which is called the footer. So the footer is usually a section that basically have kind of like all of the, I wouldn't say legal things, right? So first of all, here, again, they're putting up a clear structure for you to understand what's on this website. And this is, you can call it a sitemap, basically saying here are all the different pages that we have on the website. We couldn't fit them all in the navigation, but here you can visibly see them all. There's always kind of like this copyright issue here and privacy policy and a lot of stuff. A lot of times you would see there, and let me scroll down to the footer on this website. This is a lot of times what they have here is basically, again, the links to their social networks, things that are, you don't want to put them in the main navigation of the website, but you still want people to be able to follow you, address, contacts. A lot of these things are always going to go in the footer. And again, footer, every website has a footer, might be designed differently. And there's actually a very cool website for footer design, which I'm going to link below for inspiration about very awesome footers. But that's basically the goal of the footer, to clarify all of the small print. You can say here, obviously, Apple has a lot of small print for you to actually read, or, their legal team forces them to put them on the page, so they just basically stick it in the footer. All right, the next section that I want to talk about, it's actually not really a section, but it's a concept that you want to talk about that is called social proof. So the idea behind social proof, and you will hear this a lot in web design, is, we human are the social creatures, and we buy or we make decisions based on what a lot of other people are doing. So social proof is usually a section which is built to give us, or the company that designs the website, some kind of a proof of why they're good and why you need to trust them. A lot of times you would see kind of like, here's logos of clients that we worked with, or here are some testimonials of our clients, or here are some very impressive numbers about our company. So we will call this social proof, and every time we work with a company, we always want to make sure that we kind of pull in this data from them so that we can have a social proof section, because again, that helps build credibility and trust, and that will mean that the website will be more successful from a business perspective. All right, so this is social proof. The next thing I want to talk about, which is, it's not necessarily a section. Sometimes they would be a section, but it's call to action. Sometimes you would hear the short abbreviation of this, CTA. And basically that means what we want people to do, right? So think about this. Every website has some kind of a goal. Maybe they want you to buy, maybe they want you to sign up, maybe they want you to leave their email. Every website has some kind of a goal, and the designer needs to guide the users and the visitors towards their goal. And the way people work is they're not going to do it unless you tell them to do it. So you need to call them to take an action. All right. So every button that we have on the website, in a way, calls to action, right? So this learn more calls to action. No, of course, navigation is also buttons, right? But they're not specifically calling you to take action. But things like learn more or buy, these are call to action buttons. And a lot of times you would hear the term call to action or CTA. And sometimes we would have a whole section that basically tells you, hey, go ahead and do something. Here in this case, for example, in this furniture company, you can see that in their footer, they have a big call to action, let's talk. So that's how they're doing their call to action in this website. There's one more thing I want to talk about in terms of structure, and it's basically a term that you definitely need to know and use when you're doing web design, and that is containers. The idea behind containers is this. Look, we are working on very wide screens today, but if all the content is going to be all around, it might be very difficult to read, right? We're going to have to look left and look right. And so there's few ways of doing it. Apple here right now, you can see is they're centering the content here in the center, right? So that's one way of doing it. And we can see here when we're going here that the both heading and the text here, they're not starting at the most left side of the screen and on the most right side of the screen. Because again, then I'll have to look left to see the heading and then look right to see the actual text. So you can see that they are actually contained in the middle of the screen. So that's container, and a lot of times we're going to use that. Now, specifically in the websites that I brought here, we don't have containers. That's because they actually have two columns. So each one of these is an element on its own with the text contained on that element. But if we're going to scroll down here again into the footer, you can see that the text here and the links here, they're not starting at the top or at the most left edge of the screen until the right edge of the screen, because that would be a total mess. It's contained within an element that's called container that holds them together at the center of the screen to make this easy to consume. So this is the container. The next term that I want to talk about, or concept, is the opt-in. Opt-in basically means that a website is going to ask you to give them your email address. Usually it's an email address and a name. You're basically opting into something. You're choosing to sign up, or you're choosing to register, you're choosing to download, or something like this. Here's an example. Here we have this website for Awesome, and they have this kind of a webinar. If you want to choose it, if you want to watch it, you're clicking it, and then you're getting a pop-up. By the way, a pop-up is another term that you probably know, because you feel that when you're browsing the web. Pop-ups are popping up whether you clicked something or sometimes just after some time's passed, they're popping up. So a pop-up is another term that you need to know. Sometimes they will be called models, but the actual thing is a pop-up, right? So in this case, it popped up, and it gives us basically an option to opt in. If we want to watch this video, if you want to unlock this video, we're going to give them our name and our email address. And this is very, very common. And it's also the goal. We talked earlier about goals in web design. Like a lot of websites, their goal is going to be to get the email address and name of the people who are visiting their website because they want to get in touch with them, right? A lot of times the website is just the front of a sales process. And once you get the email or phone number or a name of a person, then somebody can follow up and do the actual sale, give more information, and close the deal. So what they're doing here is they're getting a lead, right? In sales, basically a lead is somebody who is interested in your business and is potentially going to become a customer, right? A lead it's a lead to a customer, right? So this is basically another term for opt-in is a lead magnet, right? We are trying to create some kind of a magnet, right, that is going to attract people and turn them into leads. So either opt-in or lead magnet, you're going to hear these terms a lot, and you're going to create a lot of these because this is how you help your clients or your business to get more leads by creating some kind of an opt-in. You gate some content or something like this. We in Flux Academy, we have a lot of these free resources. You put in the email, you get free resources from us. It works fantastically well. And that's a very, very common thing in web design. Now, the next thing I want to talk about actually has to do where it's kind of like a follow-up concept on getting leads on your website. It's basically conversions, right? So if a website has a goal, the goal can be make sale or get leads or one of many other things, right? And the way that we track how our website performs is to track how many people perform this action. For example, how many people buy out of the whole people who visit the website, right? So let's say, if 100 people visit the website and one person buys, we basically say that we have a 1% conversion rate. It's basically the rate of people converting into whatever we want them to convert. They can convert into a customer, a viewer of a video, whatever it is that we have as a goal. We're tracking the performance of how many of the people who visit the website we're converting, and that's how we know if our website converts well or converts badly. We have some kind of a bar that we can track, and we can try to improve this. All right, so this is conversion rate. We're going to track, again, sales and lead magnets. We're going to track the conversion rates of them. We're going to try to optimize to increase the conversion rate, right? Because that's our goal, to sell more, to get more leads. How are we going to do this? How are we going to optimize the conversion rate? One very common method in web design is called A/B testing. And A/B testing basically means we're going to have two options. Option number A, not number, but option A and option B, and we're going to test between them. So we're going to run, there's multiple ways of doing it, right? The most simple way is say, hey, I'm going to run 1 month with option A, and I'm going to run 1 month with option B, and I'm going to see which one converts better. When do I have more sales? When do I have more leads? More complicated ways of doing this, but actually more correct if you're trying to measure exactly what's going on, is to run them both at the same time, right? And just split. There are tools that help you do this. They're going to split the traffic, person number 2, C options V, and then we can track during a month when both options are running, which option converts better. So this is A/B testing, and again, very important concept and term. Your clients might want you to do this. You can offer this as a service when you're doing web design. Very, very important. All right, next term that I want to talk about, and you might heard this, is called cookies. What are cookies? You probably know, because every website that you're joining today gives you basically a cookie pop-up. There's a pop-up that says, hey, this website uses cookies. What are these cookies? Do you use them? Who else is using them? Well, a cookie is basically a technology to save some kind of preference or data inside of the browser, right? So that next time that you're visiting the website, some data is already served over there. And sometimes this data is being sent to, analytics or other tracking tools. Now, that's basically what it is. Cookie is something that is saved in your browser. By the way, when you're cleaning your browsing history, it will also ask you, would you like to clean your cookies, right? Because they are being saved in your browser. So it's basically a web technology that the reason that we have this is so that people can save their preferences and they don't have to either sign up every time or choose their preferences every single time. We have this data saved in the browser, and we can give them a better browsing experience. However, now because of a lot of privacy concerns, a lot of governments or areas or people don't want other people to track their information and save private personal information about them. So they're basically giving you some kind of a pop-up that says, hey, just know that this happens, or you can opt out of this thing if you don't want this to happen. All right, the last term that I want to say, that I want to cover here in this video, is CMS, which stands for Content Management System. Now, this is super, super important for anybody who is building for the web, because basically we designers and developers, we build a website, but then we have to hand them over to our clients who are not designers, who are not developers, and they have to maintain it, right? They might want to change the headline of the website. They might want to add another page or another blog post or something like this. So we have specific applications that are called content management system that allows non-developer clients or website owners to manage the content on their website. The most popular CMS in the world right now is called WordPress, because it's free and because it's super, super popular. And it basically gives people a way to edit their website. There's a lot of them, right? So WordPress is one of them. Wix is one of them. Squarespace is one of them. Webflow is one of them. There's a lot of CMS options today in the world. My favorite one is Webflow. And let me actually show you basically how it looks. So if this is a website that I've designed in Webflow, I'm now showing you the editor option, which basically means that a client can actually go here and literally change the text of the headline on the website. So they can change that. They can go ahead and replace this image if they want to. And in this website specifically, we have, you can see here, it's called collection. So we have things like classes. This is a yoga studio. We have classes in the yoga studio, and we have instructors in the yoga studio. So this is basically data that new clients can come in and say, hey, we have a new instructor. So they're going to click here and add a new instructor, put in her details, her image, and whatnot. And they can basically manage how many instructors are on the website, how many classes are on the website, if there's a new class, if there's a change in the class. This is a very kind of like, user-friendly way to manage all the contents that's on the website without you having to be a developer or a designer. It's really easy to manage content, and this is the way that most websites are being designed today using a certain CMS. All right, that was quite a robust video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to learn more about web design, check the links and other resources below this video. Make sure you're subscribed so that you can see other great videos about web design, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.